Hello and welcome to IDFC First Bank presents Leaders of Tomorrow Season 11. I'm Sunanda Jayaseelan. On the show tonight, we're talking all things travel first and foremost in exclusive sit-down conversation with the leader in its industry, none other than MakeMyTrip. I'm also in conversation tonight with SDIC Travel Isha Goel, who's joined us here several times on the show, joining us to talk about trends in the travel space and what to keep our eyes out on. My first interview tonight is with Rajesh Magow of MakeMyTrip. I spoke with him earlier at their beautiful office in Delhi, asking him, amongst other things, to talk to me about MyBiz, an app which is dedicated specifically to SMEs and MSMEs. He's also talking about what they mean about becoming and wanting to become a super app for travel. Listen to those highlights.
India is covered in beauty in all nooks and corners, which makes it one of the most popular travel destinations across the globe. It provides heritage, culture, medical, business and sports tourism with the objective to develop and promote tourism in India, maintain its competitiveness as a tourist destination and improve and expand existing tourism products to ensure employment generation. India's tourism and hospitality industry has emerged as one of the key drivers of growth. It is also the largest industry in India. According to reports, the Indian travel market is projected to reach $125 billion by 2027 from an estimated $75 billion in 2020. As per World Economic Forum's Travel and Tourism Development Index 2021, India is currently ranked 54th, and by 2030 it is expected to be among the top 5 business travel markets in the world. The sector will be driven by a rapid increase in tourist arrivals, increasing disposable income, and rising urbanization. As one of the fastest emerging tourist destinations in the world, India's travel and tourism sector will be the key axis of development in the coming years. And Leaders of Tomorrow caught up with MakeMyTrip, a pioneer in India's online travel space, to know more about the travel and tourism industry.
A couple of things that I do want to talk about in today's interview. One is your MyBiz,
yes,
side of the business, which specifically targets SMEs and MSMEs.
That is correct.
Could you talk to us on that?
Yeah, absolutely. And MyBiz is an initiative that we're very excited about, let me tell you that. And we just started about a little over 3 years ago when we started building, and we enhanced the capability significantly during COVID when the going was not great and we had ample time in terms of just putting our investments behind on that platform. And it has come a long way already. The best part of that MyBiz application is that the interface is exactly the same interface that you would see as an individual traveler, rather than just the classical, corporate solutions or travel solutions that were out there in the market historically, where the user interface may not be as friendly as you would see it on the as you book your travel individually. I think that's the best part from a consumer point of view. And then there are many, many features which are helping the small and medium enterpriser, from all the data at one place, the dashboards, the reports that the finance head would need, the CEO would want to see the pattern differently. From product offering standpoint, on one platform, we are giving all transport options, all hotels options, accommodation options, alternative accommodation options, and so on. So we've been able to make this product pretty comprehensive to suit the need of a small and medium enterprise. Otherwise, that small and medium enterprise, particularly large corporates, still had some solutions with them. The travel implants were there, but the small and medium enterprise did not really have a really smart solution that they could leverage. I think because of all of this, that it has gained a lot of traction already. We've come a long way in terms of just building our client base on that. We would have about 40,000 small and medium enterprises who are active on this. We want to grow this significantly. Having done all of this also for the last, let's say, 3 years, and last year also was a good, solid business travel recovery year for us. we believe that we've just scratched the surface here, because there's a significant amount of headroom in the market that is there for it to grow.
Sure. Another interesting thing about your business that I've learned is the fact that you work with women.
Yes,
who are trained as holiday experts,
yes,
who can help you customize and personalize really, any requirements that you may have.
Yes,
help me
no,
understand
absolutely,
that, yeah.
very exciting channel that we have, and we had built it many years ago. In many ways, it's an innovation in itself. I was actually there just this last weekend because we had a town hall and we had got the top. So we have a base of about 1,500 women working from home today, supporting our holidays and packages business. And it's a completely flexible model from their point of view, operating from home, and we pass them the leads, the business leads that we get it on our platform, give it to them. Sure. They interact with our customers and then engage, they convert, they handhold, and then they service, etc. as well. And it worked beautifully for the channel. And this weekend we had a town hall after 3 years because we hadn't really done this during COVID. It was fascinating to see. We had gotten about 375 women who came in from different parts of India, who were the top performers, if you will, and they were celebrating, and they all of them ended up doing a one-day sort of sales drive as well. It was fascinating to see how excited they were, how energetic they were in terms of, and they were enjoying it. And some of them had come to me and said, we love this channel because it gives us the best of both worlds. Because we want to work, we want to do something, and not necessarily sit all the time at home, but we might have constraints at home. Sure. And therefore we can just do a bit of both, right? So, and it was because it offers flexibility. And that is where we saw the power of this. And from our business standpoint, it also gives us a lot of flexibility and variability in our overall sort of, P&L structure as well. So it has worked out beautifully for both of us, and we definitely want to scale this up.
Okay.
Scale this up significantly.
Which brings me to my next question. You have a lot of brands these days that are advertising on Instagram, yes, and to the kind of customers that you're talking to who have some familiarity with, mobiles, laptops, etc. They're perhaps being drawn towards these brands who are advertising directly themselves. How are you, in some sense, really competing with? Not really competing, but how are you standing out in a market that is becoming just so much more, I would say, competitive on one hand, and on the other hand, the industry is still very fragmented, right? Because you have your really small players.
Yes. No, I think it's a very interesting question because Insta as a channel is an emerging channel, and and
especially for the travel and tourism where you have beautiful pictures, videos, etc.
That is correct. So a lot of content consumption can happen potentially there and so on, right? You're absolutely right. And then back then, before Insta, there was also Facebook, right? I mean, this is the place to go, and people, interact with each other, and they will see content. There's a lot of pictures floating around and so on, right? So it's an emerging channel. It's a pretty interesting channel. But one fundamental difference that I want to, since you talked about many brands who go and advertise there on directly and so on, I think there's a difference between product and service offering. Okay. So travel and tourism happens to be more like an experiential product or service-oriented industry rather than just off-the-shelf product. It's I think it's for any channel, for any digital channel, it's far easier for any product, physical product, off-the-shelf kind of a product brand or company to be able to just put together videos and show the product, or use the influencers on Insta, or use the USPs of the product and show that to the audience, and then audience looking at it and getting influenced by that, I think is far easier than planning your holiday and then experience around the holiday and so on, because you would typically have many more questions. When it comes to just planning and buying experience, then you come to the expert, okay, right? Because then you also want to make sure that my experience doesn't get spoiled at the end of the day, right? So it's not a very impulse off-the-shelf buying. It is a pretty involved buying at the end of the day. And for flights, let's say if you have to just commute from one place to another place, and you know what to expect in a particular flight, you will end up booking. But planning your holiday, booking a hotel stay, booking your package, etc., is a pretty involved experience. So I think it has a role to play, but more for content consumption rather than just doing the trip planning.
Okay. You've been in the news of late for saying you want to be known as, and you have become the super app of travel, really. Yes. What does that mean?
Actually, you should go and see on our homepage and you will have your answer.
I did, yeah. We were just offline checking how the app has really changed to show the different areas that you're offering.
Exactly. And that is exactly what it means. So what it means is that, in the travel domain, given that a lot of people have spoken about super app, but more horizontal rather than in a particular vertical. And we happen to be in travel industry and we want to be in travel industry, more like travel experts. And then within travel, we want to make sure that we have every possible offering related to travel, from transport to accommodations to ancillary products to anything that is touching travel. We want to bring that on our platform. So that's really the travel super app vision, if you will.
Before I let you go, I have some questions. I want to put you on the spot and ask you if you can talk to our viewers. I understand you love cricket. You're a cricket fanatic, I understand. Any cricketing parallels that you find are useful in business and running a business like MakeMyTrip?
Actually, more sport fanatic than only cricket. Okay. I love cricket and I love baddie. I actually like to follow all sports, including tennis and football and so on, right? And one thing that stands out with which can be, pretty sort of good parallel into the business community is that everything is about teamwork, if you will. I mean, I don't think even an individual support, you will have a massive team behind that particular individual sports person for him to be, or athlete, for him or her to be able to just win the medal, right? So I think it's always a thing of how you get the right team in place and right team together for you to excel.
One thing that's always in your travel suitcase that you don't travel without?
Yeah, if it is work travel, it has to be laptop. But if it is not work travel, maybe it's still the laptop, because I might still want to look at some of the emails at some point in time. No, but jokes apart, I think if it is, I think book will always be there, when you're traveling, because, if it's a long haul travel, then you might want to just pick up the book and read and maybe get to sleep also, right? So, while reading it.
Sure. So here's wishing you many more holidays without your laptop and with much more sleep. Thank you so much for speaking with us here on Leaders of Tomorrow. Appreciate your time.
Thanks a lot.
Thanks. I'm going to slip into a short break on that note. STIC Travels joining us live on the other side. Do stay tuned. We are back in just a moment. Welcome back. You're with us here on IDFC First Bank presents Leaders of Tomorrow, Season 11. Isha Goel of STIC Travel joining us here live on the show. She's in Singapore, Isha, I understand?
Right.
Appreciate your time, Isha. Let's start by asking you to set the context in terms of STIC Travels for our entrepreneurs who perhaps may be wondering what the company does and how long you've been running it, etc. Just give us some bit of a background on the business.
So Stick Travel Group is actually a 50-year-old brand in India. We've been a part of the travel and tourism journey of India for the last 5 decades, and it's been quite a transformative journey. So as a company, as a business, we operate in the B2B space. We act as a distributor, a marketer, and a sales agent for brands, overseas international brands in India, and pretty much act like a funnel or a bridge between brands and Indian travel agencies, tour operators, various channels, and eventually the Indian consumer. So we've been doing that for the last 5 decades. And in doing so, we act both in some ways as a catalyst and an advocate for tourism. And what I mean by a catalyst is, of course, that our business is centered around driving outbound tourism from India, encouraging the Indian traveler to find new avenues, new destinations, new experiences, and bringing new brands and products to them to explore around the world, and advocating for having a seat at the table with airlines, with cruise companies, with all sorts of travel brands, and making them realize how important a market India is for the travel and tourism industry.
You've been closely intertwined with India's travel and tourism space, as a leader through STIC as well for close to 2 decades now. What have some of the biggest changes really been, Isha? What can you tell us?
So I think the last 20 years, of course, when I joined the travel industry, it was the early 2004. So Air Deccan was new. E-commerce was the new buzzword. E-ticketing was something that was partially implemented with some airlines in India. So it was a very exciting time for travel, actually. And so much has changed now. If you think about the early days of when MakeMyTrip was just this new fashionable concept. And I think the drivers of that change over the last 20 years, I would put it in 3 buckets of technology, consumer behavior, and the corporate culture itself. And I'll talk about technology first and foremost, because I think that's been the most transformative aspect. At first, it was just about e-ticketing and e-commerce, with paper tickets going away, and that transformed not just the front end of the sales process, but also a mega backend that supported the monitoring and tracking and auditing of all these paper tickets. And that was a huge change in the industry globally and in India as well. But that also then spiraled into the change that e-commerce brought, and various payment solutions, digital payment solutions brought to the travel industry, making travel more accessible, more seamless, and also helping the industry evolve and adapt to. And from that, you look at how technology is impacting travel today, where not only are we able to influence travel decisions at a planning stage, we're also able to, using technology, a lot of times incept a travel idea or a holiday idea, and carry that journey all the way through the experience to tracking it even after, and tracking consumer behavior even after the travel cycle is over, to see how that person is planning their next travel, going back to them with feedback, with solutions, with more offerings, better offerings.
Okay.
So that, I think, has been a huge driver of change in our travel industry, which is technology itself. And of course, there's tremendous improvements on processes, on the way we do business, on the back end as well, in fulfilling and bringing these experiences to travelers. The other bit is consumer behavior. And I think that's also a very important aspect of how travel has evolved in our country, where, let's say 20, 30 years ago, travel was simply about conventional choices like booking a hotel, booking a tour, most often a guided tour through a tour operator, a lot of which was done offline, booking your mainstream services, and then going to a destination and figuring the rest out. And, the consumer was a spectator of the travel experience, versus today where, travel has become a lot more immersive and experiential. And consumers today are participating a lot more in that travel cycle, that process, that transaction, not just as, booking a hotel or booking a flight, but they're looking at, personalized experiences, bespoke packaging. They're looking at how they can live like a local, travel like a local, experience local cuisines, experience places in a much more immersive and personal way and direct way. And I think that's a huge evolution of the Indian traveler over the last 2 decades that I've witnessed. And the third bit, I think, is also important as an active participant in the Indian travel industry, particularly because we are a B2B business and our customers are travel agents, essentially, is how the corporate culture in India, not just in travel, but in India at large, has evolved over the last 2 decades, and how organizations, irrespective of size and scale, have become a lot more professional in their dealings, have become a lot more process oriented. which allows for tremendous efficiencies, both in how we are delivering a service, but also in how we are, offering product to the marketplace. And I think that's also had a huge positive impact on India as travel in India as an industry and as a community.
I understand the World Travel and Tourism Council has said that the travel and tourism market and space in India will continue growing. What can you tell us about where perhaps these pockets of growth going to come in from? Do you agree with that statement? What more is needed to ensure that this growth is really going to come in?
Absolutely. I think the tourism industry in India has nowhere near peaked, and I think India is a very hot destination right now. And given both the effort that industry is making on representing India, the post-pandemic India, to the world, and the efforts the government is making on infrastructure and logistics to make access to India and access to Indian sites easier, I think there is tremendous growth ahead for India tourism.
Even as the government is talking about the Amrit Kal for the economy on a whole, do you think that the travel and tourism space will see its own Amrit Kal, and how can we really tap into that and ensure that we're getting the benefits of that?
Yes, I do think so. I agree. I think that there is tremendous potential for India. There always has been. But I think it's finally the government is also sitting up and noticing that and recognizing that potential. And when policy and regulation and industry all come together to support the market dynamics, there's bound to be magic. So I do agree that it is a golden period, an Amrit Kal on the horizon for India tourism. There is still a lot that needs to be done to help us achieve that vision and that dream.
Sure.
But I think there are efforts that both industry and government are taking towards heading in that direction. So, incentives are aligned, everyone's prioritizing it. So there's no way it's all looking positive. So yes, I do believe so as well.
All right, Isha. Pleasure as always chatting with you. Thanks for taking the time.
My pleasure.
Out of time on tonight's conversation. If you have any feedback for us, do let us know. Our details are on your screens as we speak. Thanks for watching. Have a good night.